Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show, episode 116. My name is Paul. I'll be your host. And it's just me and Alan this week, but that is not always a bad thing, depending on how you feel about the Marmite man that is Chris O'Martin. Some of you love him. Maybe some of you don't love him. We don't know. We kind of love him, but we love him sometimes even more when he's not here, Alan.
Contractually obliged to love the man. That's what we are.
We have no choice. It's like, do you know what it's like? It's like when you move into a new house, you can't choose your neighbors. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your neighbors. That's what it feels like for Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on the money there. Can't do anything about it.
But the poor lad claims he was called into work or had to work late, or we don't really know what he does like that. He's an international man of mystery. But yeah, whatever Chris says he does, that will do. And yeah, we're in good mood, but I'm not sure why we're in a good mood. We should be in a better mood, I would suggest, as a fan base, because normally I'd be looking at what's going on currently. We should have come out of the weekend with a win against Everton at home. We should be going into a Man United fixture full of confidence because of the shit show that they've been for the last few years. Man City in the Cup, again, it's at home, give or take, who knows? And then a last 16 European clash against Barcelona. So at the time of recording, it is the night before the Man United game. We said we'd come to you a bit early this week because there's a lot to discuss, but mainly because I'm in about 8 hours getting in the car and driving to Dublin and getting an early flight to Newcastle for the Man United.
My heart bleeds for you. My heart bleeds for you.
Well, I just normally when I go to Newcastle, I'm just full of confidence. I just think to myself, we're at home, we can beat anyone. And yeah, Man United have been quite easy to beat in recent years. Naturally, the stars have aligned for us to be in kind of shit form, particularly in the league. They've been in fairly good form, even though that chap hasn't been able to cut his hair yet because they're still not going to win 5 games in a row. No. But that's the first question really for you, Alan, is like, how are you feeling after that Everton game? We've got Man United at home in the league, Manchester City at home in the Cup, and then Barcelona at home in the Champions League. Massive home games against massive teams with an asterisk on one of them. I don't know how I feel.
On paper, that's a rotten next 3 games. But as you said, we can beat anyone at home. But going off that performance against Everton, we could beat nobody at home. That's up there with the Brentford game at home for the worst performances this season, I think. I hate digging a certain player out, but Nick Pope was absolutely shocking. Like this season alone, I think he's cost us maybe 12 points. It's just really, really, really disappointing, and it's gotten to the point where now I didn't mind when he couldn't kick a ball, but he was saving shots that he shouldn't have saved, and he was doing this and doing that and doing the other. But it's gotten to the point now where he's not even making easy saves. Like the one he spilled for the second goal wasn't a difficult save to make, and he looks a man devoid of confidence. He looks a man who is still carrying that shoulder injury that we were warned about that could be the downfall of him. It looks like it's finally caught up with him in my eyes. I don't know, but it was very, very, very disappointing.
And it's an interesting one because, like, even on the Rest is Football podcast this week, Alan Shearer gave him a little bit of a dig out. He was kind of summarising Newcastle's season, particularly in the league, and obviously Gordon not doing as much in the league as he's doing in the Champions League. But he dug out Nick Pope in terms of how he played, obviously, the weekend and this season. But he also named Dan Burn in that as well, which is interesting. And, Dan Burn was injured at one point, but that's where my question now, what I've been thinking about is Nick Pope to blame because Ramsdale hasn't come in and made a huge difference? Or are we having, these issues at the back? We've conceded a huge amount of goals compared to where we were, especially 2 seasons ago, even maybe last season, and particularly under Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
We are leaky as hell, and I don't know why.
I have said for a couple of weeks now, since Dan Burn came back from that most recent injury, he lost a yard of pace he couldn't afford to lose. He just looks all over the shop. It's like so disappointing, constantly making mistakes, constantly getting booked, making silly fouls, just looking like he is all over the place. And I for someone who was always Mr. Consistent ever since he pulled on a Newcastle jersey, it just looks Like, it's a different person, but that's not down to him. Like, he's 33 years old, playing centre half in the Premier League and the Champions League week in, week out. He needs a break. Like, we don't have anyone to give him a break because Botman's only come back from his injury. Chow, man's played 35 or 36 games in a row. Like, we have
bar one because he was suspended.
He was suspended. Yeah,
he finally got a rest, but only because he had to.
Doesn't count really against Karabag, but let's be honest about it. But like, we have no other options than to just continually flog these dead horses already. If you know what I mean. Like, it's an odd one. I hate banging on about it's gonna be a transformative summer, but I wouldn't be opposed to an entire new backline, a new goalkeeper, a new midfielder, and a new attacking line coming in for us in the summer. It's not that all isn't going to happen. Like, I'm not expecting that by any stretch of the imagination, but like,
it feels like that's needed.
Yeah, we need serious reinforcements, and it's just the last couple of weeks have really reinforced how paper thin our squad is.
And here's the issue, Alec. When you look at the window, and we say this a lot, you and me play a lot of Football Manager.
Yeah.
We signed a goalkeeper, we signed a centre back, we signed a centre midfielder, we signed a winger, and we signed 1.5 strikers. That doesn't apply to Voltamati's height. It's more his suitability as a striker.
Yeah.
You could argue that we signed what you're saying we need. But I think the harsh reality of it is Chow has been the only successful signing out of them all. Ramsey improving and getting there and could be a big asset to us, but not the game changer maybe, and not the answer to the current problems we're having. Alanga, very disappointing. Vissa, disappointing. Voltamati it's a messy situation at the moment. It's as much about a bad summer as opposed to what our usual narrative has been for a lot of the last 115 episodes, where we just weren't strengthening it all. This time we finally did strengthen. Obviously, the Isaac thing hit the club hard, hit Eddie Howe and the squad planning, squad dynamic system, etc. hard. But where we went to sign those key positions, 4 out of 5 of those big ones haven't really been what we've needed or haven't worked out. That's kind of the reality of it.
I think our strike rate before this window in players we signed being so good was also a negative towards us, because when we did have a couple of bad signings and we just happened to get 4, not bad signings, it's a wrong word to use, but signings that haven't worked out yet, together has really, really affected us. Like, it's Elanga looks half the player we signed from Forest. Voltamata started like a house on fire, but just has fallen asunder. Wissa looks like an imposter. Right? It's not the man we signed from Brentford. Ramsey, I think, has gotten better and better and better every single week. Chow has been sensational. He has been worth every penny of his 35 million and 35 more, if you ask me. Like, if there was rumors the other day of him going to Man United for 80 million, I'd be disappointed if we sold him for 80 million.
Like, and at the same time, even if it's just a rumor, it shows you that was an incredible signing, incredible value, and should be in there with discussions around signing of the season in the Premier League, but probably won't, because Newcastle are conceding shitloads of goals.
Yeah,
and that's
not his fault. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm going to be very confident and full of positive thoughts when I get on a Ryanair flight tomorrow morning at 8:15 a.m. In Dublin, flying over to watch us play Manchester United. And another interesting fact, I was at the reverse fixture on the 26th of December. I went over with my old man to Old Trafford. He's a big Man United fan, and also watched us lose in that game, even though we didn't deserve to lose, and I don't know how we didn't score. So I really need the score to be evened here in terms of us getting a win for many reasons.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we really need to bounce back. And I don't know how many times tweets, us talking about the podcast, we have to use the phrase bounce back, to bounce back from a disappointing result, to bounce back from a disappointing performance. But this now for me is a real test of I don't even know if I'm at the point where I'm like, this is a test for Eddie Howe. Like, this is a test for the players as far as I'm looking at it. We said it after I suppose Karabag, like, over the last couple of weeks we saw some signs of improvement. But like, can we say with confidence, these players are absolutely giving their all for the manager at the moment and for the club? And I kind of feel like we're falling back into a lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
And you can talk about the system not working. You can talk about players out of position. We keep talking about not having a goal scorer, but there are times where we look brilliantly, and there are times where we look terrible, and that's inconsistency. And that just shows to me that there is more to give from this team.
There absolutely is. There's been players. I'm not going to name any names because everyone knows who we're kind of talking about, if you know what I mean. But like, they're not doing the easy work, which is technically the hard work. They're not doing the tracking. They're not doing the closing the man down. They're just not showing. Players are hiding when they're on the pitch. It's a team lacking in confidence. Even though we'd won, like we beat Carabag twice and we'd won in the cup, and we'd done this and we'd done that. Like we looked a team that were very fragile, and that defeat, I'm very worried that it could knock our confidence big style. But I'm also in the boat of when our backs are against the wall and people are saying this is when we're at our worst. This is when we pull results out of the bag. With kind of when people are starting to write us off, the fuck you mentality comes out, where we're like, no, we're going to prove that you are wrong in this situation. It's time for players to step up to the plate and say, no, I am exactly where I should be. We are better than what we are doing, but at the minute we are septic looking, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is where it does get worrying in terms of the wins against Aston Villa and Tottenham and Karabakh. On paper, like I've just opened it up here to get the order right because I want to go back further. On paper, it looks like we had a good spell, but we beat arguably the worst version of Tottenham that has existed, and that's comparing them to last season when they were terrible. It was a 10-man Aston Villa side that shot themselves in the foot and self-imploded in a cup. It was Karabakh who just really showed that they were probably a little bit fortunate to be where they were in terms of getting that far. And we really, that performance in their place was whatever about fair play to them for turning up in our place and doing themselves proud. But we weren't great against them. No. There's results in here, the Man City game when we lost 2-1. But then there's losing at home 3-2 to Everton, losing at home 3-2 to Brentford. If we keep going back on, we're hammered by Liverpool, well beaten by Man City in the cup, in the League Cups. And then there was a 2-0 loss at home to Villa. I'm even looking at the 0-0 against Wolves away, and I'm just like, when were we actually showing that that this is a team that deserves to be higher than we are in the league?
I honestly
maybe
think
we just have to accept we just aren't.
That's what I was going to say. I think the last time we actually played well was away to Everton, which had to be 15 games ago. Yeah, had to be 15, 20 games ago. That's what we were talking about here.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is it's more than 50. It's at least 20 games ago. It's at least 20 games
but
ago.
That's what you're talking
29th
about.
of November.
That's the last time you can say, oh no, we played really well. Was that game? That's not good enough for a team that wants to be in the Champions League.
That is absolutely not good enough. And that, again, we've managed to pick up wins not playing well or getting lucky. The wins, you're probably right to say, since that win, we've not really played brilliantly, and where we have won well, it was against poor sides.
Yeah, we've only beaten one Big Six side this year, haven't we? I think.
What, in Man City in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think that's the only one we've won, isn't it?
I think so.
Lost to Liverpool twice. Lost to Man United once, playing them again. Chelsea, I can't remember. Spurs don't count anymore.
Spurs.
Don't count.
Spurs is Spurs. You could nearly bring Villa in instead of Spurs, but we've not done well against them. So the point is very valid. Well, I think this is, again, it's a very we keep saying about different spells, but it's sobering. But this is also, it's kind of shit or get off the pot time. It really is, when you look at it where we are in terms of when you and me and maybe Chris Show, if he's not too depressed after the next 3 games results, because the next time we sit down to record, we have to talk about a league game against Man United, FA Cup game against Man City and a Champions League game against Barcelona. And if they've not gone very well, our outlook on the season would be a lot less one of hope, which it still is now, to potentially one of acceptance and just begging for the season to be over.
Well, like, not being ridiculous, like, we could come back next week and be like, we have conceded 10 goals and not scored a goal. Like, and people are like, oh, that's ridiculous. We've conceded 6 in our last 2 home league games. That's against Everton and Brentford. We have Barcelona, Man United, and Man City to come to St James's Park. Like, those sides could easily.
That never goes well in Football Manager.
If we play like we have been playing, we could easily come back here and say, right, we lost 2-0 to Man United, 3-0 to Manchester City, and 5-0 to Barcelona, and be sitting here devastated that our season is over. We have absolutely nothing left to play for, because, like, yes, we can still make a run of it at the league, but my God, we'd be relying on every single other team dropping points nearly.
Well, you're relying on other teams to do certain things and us to do
everything right.
Simple things or basic things, but to play as best as we would have played all season. I can't even get the words right, but to play better than we've played all season for the next 2 months, when we've not really had not put together any type of consistency in performance. And, you look at some of the fixtures coming up. We talked about those next 3, but then we've got Chelsea away. We've got the Mackhams at home, which is what it is in terms of a fixture. Suddenly we were down to London to play Palace. We play Bournemouth at home, who just aren't afraid of us, never have been. Arsenal away. There's a lot ahead with very little time to do a whole lot about it. But here's where we try and flip the podcast on its head, Alan, so we don't just bawl ourselves to sleep. Like, what's the turnaround here? And I'm not expecting you to tell me what can Eddie Howe do to change things around, but, like, what if we're to fast forward, or even in a week's time, what do you think would be the 1, 2, max 3 things that would have been, like, we would have seen done differently or happened that haven't been happening before in terms of individual performance, team performance? I don't know if it's a system. What do you think could be the catalyst? Future thinking.
As much as I hate to say it, Pope being dropped might be one of them.
Okay.
Livramento coming back could be another one. Playing Voltemada as a striker and telling the man that if he leaves the box, he's not getting paid. If he drops any deeper than the halfway line, you're not getting paid this week. Be a fucking number 9. You're 6'7". Yes, you are brilliant on the ball. Yes, you're excellent. Yes, you've no confidence at the minute, mate. Stand in the 6-yard box and get yourself a couple of goals. Get yourself on the end of crosses. Stop hiding. Him and Gordon are getting very annoying for just disappearing and they're not trying. They're showing for the ball, but they're just making silly mistakes. It's time for something to give. Something has to give over the next couple of games, and I'd like Eddie just to turn around. If he's going to play Voltemada, and just say to him, do not leave the 18-yard box. Stand offside until the ball comes to you, because he needs to show something. I know that's not how he plays, but that's what we need at the minute, unfortunately. Because as much as we want to say it, Wissa has looked absolutely awful anytime he's been on the pitch for us. He scored a couple of goals, but he's...
You said it yourself. They were tapping.
Yeah. I thought he was coming in as a lightning quick little nippy striker. I was at the PSV game when he scored, and I was like, this bloke looks like he's about 2 stone overweight running around the pitch. He looked like me on the pitch. It was like looking like an amateur footballer put on the pitch. Goal he scored, rolled across the 6-yard box to him. Yes, he's coming back from a serious knee injury, and as soon as he comes back from a serious knee injury, he gets another knock. He hasn't had a run of games to build up confidence, to build up fitness, but like professional footballer, you have to look quicker than that coming back. Like it's just something not right.
Yeah, I think there's more at play, seemingly. I don't know what it is. I mean, it could be just down to the messiness of our system and where we are as a squad, and certain players have been there too long and others are out of form, and just Bruno comes out of the team and then suddenly the guy who's carrying us isn't there. And I think Bruno come back is another big catalyst in the next few weeks, if and when. We don't know how quick that's going to be.
Yeah.
Without all those things put together, it is an absolute mess. And that's why I'm trying to cling on to something that can carry us through here. And the only thing is, I was thinking about this earlier today. the only things I could come up with in terms of like, what do I think would be the things that I might say are the reasons why we get 2 or 3 good results / performances when we sit down a week from now, or just more than a week from now to record. And I kind of fell back to things we've seen before that have worked. So one was Harvey Barnes. I feel like when we've been in trouble in the past, or when we've had good performances or strong win, it's been Harvey Barnes has. I mean, sometimes he's come off the bench to do it, but Harvey Barnes comes in and scores 4 goals in 3 games, or 5 goals in 3 games, or 4 goals in 5 games, scores a brace in a couple of matches, and really just the power that he has and the finishing that he has when he's on it often is the difference maker in our games, even if we're not playing brilliantly, because all we then talk about is Harvey Barnes. That could be a factor here. I feel like against Man United, he could have an opportunity there to go and actually do what he does best, cut in that right-hand side and start smacking balls at that goalkeeper, who's been doing all right, but like their defense can be got at. The other thing for me then, and again, this is more of a needs must, I just feel that Sandro Tonali, we've seen what Sandro Tonali can do, and he must be one of the fittest footballers in the Premier League.
Yes.
And he's up and down the field all the time because he's a box-to-box midfielder, and he offers so much in the opposition half, and he offers so much in our half. I'm almost at the point where we've become so leaky in defense in terms of teams just playing through, because we're not conceding loads on set pieces, and we shouldn't because of the height, but teams are just kind of like sliding the ball through. Take that 100% of all that energy you have, Sandro, and just put it into being a defensive midfielder. That your job is to protect, which is a 6, right? In the way we talk about it in the modern way. But we can't even afford to have him drift as it stands.
No.
Other players need to get more involved. Now, can Joe Linton do that? You could argue doesn't really progress the ball and create. Ramsey does. Again, he hasn't had a string of games. Seems to have a little question mark on fitness. Willock can do a bit of that as well. I know that maybe that's why Eddie's tried to bring in Voltemade, but I've still seen Sandro Tonali wandering and having to overcompensate for the lack of ground that Voltemade covers. And then you're praying for Bruno to come back. But again, in the absence of those things, if you have a Livramento come back, we saw Livramento drifting inside to be that inverted fullback. Lewis Hall at times throughout the season has done it. We've just not really seen those reinforcements from other areas in those spaces. And that's where Sandro's having to run all over the shop to fill a lot of empty space. And then he's not where we need him to be to protect that, a defense that is lacking in confidence and making mistakes. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of thinking, Sandro, yes, we know what you can do up there, but we're just conceding too many goals.
Yeah.
Somebody else has to score the goals, not you, and not that he does, but he's trying so hard and too hard. I just feel it's like, sit there for an hour, Sandro. We'll tell you if we can let you out. And if the game is going in our way, then he can express himself and we can be a bit more comfortable. So they're just two of the things that jumped out for me, really. I still think Nick Pope is a good shot stopper. It's just, by God, when he fucks up, does he do it with style and not in a good way? I don't know if it makes a huge difference bringing Ramsdale in, because they both have weaknesses. But does he deserve to be dropped? Yes.
Yeah, he hasn't instilled confidence in me in any way, shape, or form when he has.
No.
But he doesn't put the fear of God in me the same way Pope has this season.
Pope can.
The ball gets rolled back to Pope, and you're clenching. You're going, Jesus, what's he going to do here? Shots from 35, 40 yards, you're going, is he going to spill this? Is he going to punch it? What's he going to do? Whereas Ramsdale, like, he might make a silly mistake, but it won't be as bad as what Pope has done this season. And that's the way you have to look at it. Like,
okay, I need a break already.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick breather, and when we come back, I think we might have a little chat about kind of what we think Eddie Howe will do against Manchester United, how the cup fixture kind of falls in between what is then a massive, massive game at home to Barcelona, and how we think the squad planning and the match selection and the first 11, etc., might go. So we'll be right back. A huge thank you to our podcast sponsors of the Irish Mag Show. The Half Volley, providers of high-quality, customizable clothing and merchandise, catering for all sports teams, businesses, social clubs and events. FSH Training Limited, a team of expert frontline paramedics and firefighters delivering first aid, fire safety, manual handling and patient handling for all business environments. and JH Fitness, an Irish-based online coaching business specialising in sustainable fat loss, lifestyle change, and long-term health for real-world men and women. Support local. Check out all of our partner sponsor links in the podcast description. Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show. Alan, I don't know if we were very depressed in that opening half of the podcast. We started
I
off
think we might have
smiling, and then
been.
we just drove ourselves down the rabbit hole of depression. It's time to try and come out of it. Just as we finished up the first half there, we were talking about what were the things that might be catalysts in terms of changing our fortunes. But ultimately, Eddie Howe is the only man that can really make the decisions that can lead to that. And ultimately, the players then need to execute it. So first question really is just going into this Man United game, looking at the form that Man United have been on, looking at how we've been playing, especially at home.
Mhm.
I mean, before it was a problem winning away from home. We then solved that and start losing games at home. I don't make it make sense. But to go out and beat Man United, I suppose, knowing that we have Man City in the cup and how that's going to be prioritized, it is a Saturday evening night game again.
8 p.m. Yeah.
Anyone ever have deja vu? No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And then only 3 days later, it's Barcelona at home with the Champions League. So, we thinking about Man United, like, is Eddie Howe just going to go and worry about Man United, like focus on Man United and not really care about the following games? Or does he have to think about all three of these games because they all take place within 7 days and the squad needs to be managed accordingly?
Eddie Howe will tell you he's only going to take it one game at a time, but being realistic, he will be looking ahead. Like, he will have to rotate in all three games. You won't see the same 11 players being trudged out for all three. I say that.
We've said that before.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. In my head, we will not play the same 11 players in the next three games, but he could well do it. I can see changes being made for the Man United game. I hate saying it because anytime we have done it, I don't think we've looked great. I could see 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 being pulled out again, where it just, we've seen it being done. Dan Burn, Malik Chow, Sven Botman at the back. Trips or Murphy, he'll go Trippier, and then Hall as another wing back and go. It's five at the back. It's not three at the back. Let's be honest about it. He'd then go to three midfielders, and then he'd go Gordon and another up top. Like it's how he could go against them, and then revert back to form against Man City on Saturday, when hopefully we have a couple of more players back. If he's talking that Tino isn't, that this game is going to come too early for Tino, maybe City won't. Maybe City is the game where he can come back, and then I think Miley has been earmarked for the Barcelona home game to come back, which is another player that we could bring back, because you have another option. Like, these guys aren't going to come back match fit, but they're there as an option for 60 minutes to give Trippier, who is in dire need of a rest, to give him a break, to give anyone in that midfield. Like, Tonali is crying out for a rest. I don't think he's had a minute off this season. Like, it's more options, and we badly need them. It's just something has to give. 6-8.
I had not forgotten about Miley, but just in my head, for some reason, written him off in terms of coming back anytime soon. I don't know why. Might have been a bit of deja vu from when he had that back injury, or did I dream that? Miley would be a massive one to come into that midfield.
Yeah.
Even sticking with what I'm saying about with Bruno missing, where we need Sandro to be, and then what other players can fill in those gaps.
Yes.
Yeah, Miley is huge, and Miley can progress the ball. Miley has that passing range. Miley has that vision. He has that work rate. He can cover ground. Joe Linton physically can cover a lot of ground.
Yes.
On the ball, it's a lot less in terms of what he contributes. So love that. Give me more Miley and give me more Tino, and I feel a lot better about things. But yeah, it's a question of are we going to have any of them back for these 3 games in 7 days that are 3 absolutely gigantic games? I honestly don't know is the answer. The one thing I'll say is I watched us in Old Trafford obviously lose against Manchester United, but for a lot of the game we were all over them, and in particular down the flanks as well. So again, like, Alanga does nothing to make me think he can be an asset to us down the flank unless you have a team playing a really, really high line. Hello Barcelona. Alanga against Barcelona makes sense. Maybe sometimes a little bit of Man City, depending on who they play at left back, because they have roaming fullbacks. against Man United. Does it make as much sense? Maybe not, especially when it's his
Mm.
old club. Do I think that there's an opportunity for Barnes, Gordon, and Murphy as the front three? Probably I do, yeah, because Man United can be got at in terms of running at them with power, but we need to storm the trenches to do it. And
Would you
I thought
start
we were
Barnes up
so
front?
slow against. I probably wouldn't start Barnes up front because we've seen a couple of glimpses of what Gordon can do up front against a relatively poor defense, and I think Man United still have a slightly poor defense, even if they're in a bit better form. You know, they've kind of won some games without playing hugely well, and they're very reliant on Bruno Fernandes, who needs to be managed. And then, yeah, Sesko has finally come into a bit of form, the same way Voltemade did it when he joined in September, October. Sesko is doing it a little bit now. And of course, they've got Brian Mbeumo because they managed to pay him about 350 grand a week, which we couldn't do. So there's certain threats you can neutralize, but in terms of their midfield and in terms of their defense, they can be got at. And I feel that needs to be done with power, with pace, with intensity, and a bit more directness. And that's where, even though Elanga is fast, I don't think he offers that kind of
The Man United
clinical
game
edge
is
in the front
the
three.
perfect game for Joe Linton just to kick somebody out. Kick Bruno Fernandes after 35 seconds and just say, welcome.
Oh,
St.
Fernandes
James's
would be
Park.
crying. Bruno
Yeah.
Fernandes would be crying if Joe Linton is given the chance to go at him, which I'd be fine with.
Yeah, 100%.
But we just obviously need to manage their threats as well. So it's a tough one to call, particularly off the back of the weekend where things didn't at all go according to plan for where we thought they were. But the only thing you might say, you know, when you compare the Everton result and the Brentford result to maybe Man United, Man City, Barcelona, is you might not see as much low block. You might not see teams kind of dropping back and like being as rigid as Everton were, because Everton were incredibly well organized. Fair play to them, and so were Brentford. You'd like to think that maybe maybe not Man United, Manchester City and Barcelona, far more adventurous, far more trying to push on and push forward. That allows transition play. That allows us to try and do quick breaks. And that, for me, is still our most effective threat from an attacking perspective.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of the only threat we have, really, because we haven't looked anything like ourselves at all this season. So it's really hard to say what our other options are, really, is it?
No. Alan, I wanted to ask you, in terms of the Man United game, Keith Downey, I think, tweeted today that Voltemade was sick / missing. I don't know if they put out an APB on where he is. This mysterious illness that's floating around. I don't know if you saw halftime of the Everton game. It looked like Jacob Ramsey was literally like stopping himself from vomiting in the center circle. I've never seen that before, and I've been watching football for a long, long time. Have you seen anything to suggest that we have sacked a chef or someone who's in charge of nutrition or recreational activities? I don't know what's being smoked over there, but is there an illness going around? Because this isn't the first time I've heard this kind of thing.
No, seemingly there is an illness ramping, like running through the camp, which is always good. Ramsey is supposedly back. He trained today, according to Eddie, in his pre-match presser, but Voltemade has not been seen since the Everton game because he has been unwell. He looked like he was playing like he was unwell, if I'm totally honest with you, but it just I don't know what to say. It's a bit mad, but what can we do? It is what it is, really. Like you have to deal with these. It's the Spurs dodgy lasagna all those years back when they were trying to get into the Champions League. That. Yeah, is that what's happened? I don't think
Didn't it happen? I think it happened in the 90s with Middlesbrough. They had this mad kind of a food poison thing, and they ended up having to start a game with 9 or 10 players or something. I can't remember the full story, but something wild way back in the day anyway. Thankfully, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Thankfully not. The other thing it brings you to start questioning then, as soon as you're losing players to injury, you're losing players to mysterious illnesses, and you're having to rotate, and players are out of form. Even against Karabakh, granted, you know, we were only just about winning at home. It was still whatever it was, 8-3 or whatever, 9-3 on aggregate. We still didn't see bar Alex Murphy starting and playing the whole game. We didn't see anything from Eddie Howe to suggest much trust in Sean Neve, in Leo Shahar, in any of the younger players.
No.
You know, there are some good youngsters at the club. The latest kind of exciting one is it Mills? Is it Michael Mills? Matthew Mills?
Yes, it's coming for the 18s, I think he is now, isn't he?
Yeah, you know, very exciting prospects, but nothing to suggest Eddie Howe is willing to take a chance on any younger players. Like I wouldn't say he took a risk playing Alex Murphy. We were 6-1 up in the first leg.
Done and dusted, like.
Yeah, and Alex Murphy has been training with the first team for God knows how long. But where we've seen other Premier League teams, managers take the odd chance on a younger player who's come in and done really well, yeah, just nothing seems to be changing, and it seems to be annoying the fan base quite a bit on social media at the very least.
Yes, but the opposite side of the coin, which I do see, is take Leo Shahar, for instance. We throw him in for 90 minutes against Karabag, and he gets roasted after 2 minutes. And this up-and-coming 19-year-old right back that we have that we're pinning our hopes on to be brilliant suddenly goes, oh, I'm not good enough. Confidence is shattered, and you're then going, right, we have to build this man back up. Whereas if we give him 5 or 10 minutes now, do you remember what he done with Lewis Hall?
Why hasn't Leo Shahar had that 5 or 10 minutes already on different occasions with Livramento being out injured, so that he could then be used for a longer period in a game where, like Karabag, or a game where we're winning 5-1 and there's still 35 minutes to go?
Cast your mind back to 2 years ago when we signed Lewis Hall on loan, and we're going, what the hell is the point of this? And now look at Lewis Hall. I'm giving Eddie the benefit of the doubt on this, that he
Well,
knows.
Of course, I think Eddie Howe knows more than me and you.
Yeah,
you'd like to think so. Maybe not Chris Show, because Chris Show is, all-knowing. But we definitely think Eddie Howe knows more than you and me.
He has to. Like, there has to be reasons behind why he's not starting and playing these lads, but I agree that somebody should have gotten more minutes by now. So certainly, with the amount of injuries to fullbacks we have, Shahar would have been the obvious choice. Alex Murphy, like, we've seen Lewis Hall come on right back against Karabag, meaning Alex Murphy could have played left back and Hall could have played right back at some stage in some game this year. Like, it wouldn't have been great by any stretch, but it's odd. I don't get it myself now, but
yeah, the one that comes to my mind is when Trent Alexander-Arnold gets injured for Liverpool. Joe Gomez might have been their standard kind of cover. He was out as well. And Connor Bradley gets thrown in and was like, not, an elite, whatever, like, did really, really well. Like, just at the time, probably not as many Liverpool fans would have known. Like, I'm talking about when he first broke into that squad. He was thrown into the deep end and he was brilliant. Now, Connor Bradley is probably far superior to any of the backup or young players we have playing it right back.
How do we know?
But it was an example of a manager that was willing to take a risk and throw a player in. And yes, a player can have a nightmare and things can go wrong. I'm sure that's happened to some of the most elite players out there.
Oh yeah,
quite simply, and players bounce back. It's only a game. They have a long career. It's not going to define a career, I think. Getting thrown in as a 17-year-old and then someone goes around you and scores a goal. It's
not the end of the world.
If you're going to have a long career, that won't stop you, as far as I'm concerned. But I thought it was important to talk about because it is something Eddie Howe gets a lot of pressure, criticism on, about his lack of trust. But what he'll never say is that, look, they're just not good enough. I know they're not good enough. I'm a manager. I've been a manager. I've been working in football for how long? These guys just aren't good enough to play at this level. And that can even apply to Alex Murphy, who, I'm a big fan of because he's from Galway. It's not because I think he's a superstar. I think he's a safe, consistent option, better as a backup, and use when needed. But again, if we don't see these players, we don't know. So
should have been used more by now. Yeah,
you can understand why people get a bit frustrated, right? The big question will be, Alan, will there be bars across the nation full of frustrated Irish mags during meetups? We're going to have multiple meetups, folks, for all of these games. As we've mentioned, Man United, we've got Manchester City on Saturday, and we've got Barcelona the following Tuesday. All of these will be in our socials and on the website, theirishmags.com, but specifically for Man United.
So 100% confirmed for Man United. We have the Castle Bar in Tralee, Kerry, because I know you're going to say Castle Bar's in Mayo. It's not. It's the Castle Bar in Tralee. which is a first meetup for the lads down in Kerry. So
Nice.
they should be looking forward to that one. It should be a good day out for them. And then obviously the Bleaker for all games. We're in the Bleaker for every single game. We do have meetups guaranteed for Man City and for Barcelona, but I don't want to jump the gun before everything is confirmed and say we have one definitely here and it end up not happening. So just keep an eye out on socials for all of them. But yeah, for tomorrow we have, for Man United we have the Castle Bar and Bleaker Street Bar.
Nice one. I believe there's something happening in Ennis at some point in the next week or so as well. I heard whispers.
Yeah, there's word on the street is there could be, yes.
There could be, yes. We'll all be confirmed. So we'll get through Man United first, and we'll announce meetups for Man City, and then after that, we'll announce the meetups for Barcelona. But it all, as I said, it'll all be posted on our website and on social media. So keep your eyes peeled, drink responsibly, and hopefully we'll be having a good time. That's the main thing.
It will indeed.
Similar, like there's 3 home games in a row. We're going to have a lot of Irish mags traveling. Get those photos into all the groups. We'll eventually get them up onto the website. And fly the flag, as we always say.
Absolutely.
For the Irish Mags.
Absolutely.
Right, that is us for episode 116. It's so much more efficient without Krisho. Just have to throw it out there. It just doesn't derail us because, normally he brings us off on a tangent and we have to go editing. But myself and Alan are above board at all times. We will be back for more Irish Magnus. In 3 games' time, we'll have a lot to discuss. We'll be recording after the Barcelona game. Where, good God, if Christian's coming back, I hope we have a lot of happy copies to cover.
Oh, God. We will. We'll be absolutely delighted.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, how are the lads for the next week of football? 7 days, 3 games, all huge. We'll be back for more Irish Magnus after each of them. Until then, slán go fóill. Have a good week.
Slán Thanks, well.